Lou Pearlman never got a fair shake. What's up, YouTube? It's the NFL Week 12 Picks Against the Spread video for the 2019 NFL season. Congratulations to the Week 11 winner, Dak to the Future, for going 12-2 against the spread. Good for 85%. Fat Guy Dak to the Future, number one at 12-2. We also have Fat Guy Owes Me a Pizza, Sir Paco de Pope, and Colt Boy 18 at 11-3. Thoughts on the picks against the spread for Week 11?
I thought it was a little bit of a public week, but I am congratulatory to those that were able to finish on top of the Fat Guy. And that also includes Colt Boy 18, Declare 009, Believe 93, making me believe that his name is Bill and he was born in 93. Memphis D Nice, Bobby Nukes, sounds like a good name, Bobby H. We're going to go with some alliteration there, and Kenneth B. to finish it off. All at respectable records of 10 plus wins. And don't forget, when you do win, you do get a t-shirt. It'll take some time, guys, don't worry. Such as Zit Vono for last week. Right here, flashed on the screen. And on the back, it says, I finished on top of the Fat Guy. Who wouldn't like to do that?
Let's look at the overall leaderboard, where pick last, our boy Jake Jacobs in first place, a 4-game lead, 96, 65, and 1. Good for 59.6% on the year. Satuple and ourselves just behind at 57%, as well as some of the favorites, Mickey Hill, E. Steelers, Bo, Gay for Fat Guy, Sir Paco de Pope, Big Rise, Big Thighs, and Detroit one time.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good year for us. I did foreshadow regression to the mean because I think this is our first or second losing week. We've been crushing this year, along with some of those other winners, we'll call them, other guys top of the leaderboard. They do pick in similar style with us, so they do tend to do poorly when we do. But JJ was able to get it more or less a stranglehold before this week, being tied with us, and now at first by 4 games. There is going to be regression to the mean. This isn't the only time I'm going to be losing a week. But it's a long-term results. It's a long-term results game, and look at our long-term results. They've been pretty good going through.
So for us, 92, 69, and 1. Good for 57%. It's been an excellent year so far. In fact, a new addition to the show, the JS715 name of the week. Let's start with the honorable mentions.
Big Rye has a gross aversion to crooked things, particularly Booger McFarland's fingers. So Booger Fingers coming in with the first honorable mention, followed by Lil Helmet to Helmet, never hurt when you're DTF. That could mean Dylan Toddfield, cue the music. That could mean something else. Rusty Guy and the Skinny Fats, and Roblo's Hot Tub. In particular, Jeff Roblo. Currently wondering if that hot tub has come back from the hiatus, and what temperature is it at if it's running. We don't know.
Yeah, Jeff Roblo, a favorite of the live stream. Let's highlight the name of the week for JS715, and that is
Dylan Toddfield's daddy. Just a fantastic, fantastic name. I forgot. Cue the music. Yes, one of my favorite names. Actually, my favorite name for the entire week.
All right, Fat Guys. So you guys all at home can compete. Week 12, we had a really good turnout. I think we had 100 people this week.
Perfect.
Let's see if we can get over 100. Tell your friends. Get your mom to sign up. BigRyanTheFatGuy.com.
I think she did.
Will be in the description below. Fat Guy, what everyone's here for. The Thursday night football game. Easily 5 stars. Indianapolis Colts at Houston Texans. Texans 3.5-point favorites. 67% of early bettors are on the Texans. Or on the Texans.
Tech
Fat
sides.
Guy, who you got?
I guess tech sides. I guess that's like a cool portmanteau. Obviously, he can't get it out in one take, so I'm going to have to. I'm going to be taking the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm going to be taking the 3.5 points. Standard Fat Guy game. Divisional rivalry. Thursday nighter. I'm getting 3.5 points. Up and above the 3 threshold, so that has added weight for me. And also the public is going against it. This checks most of the boxes. This isn't by any means a game of the week, but it is certainly a little bit of a favorite. I do like the Colts. What I am surprised at a little bit, it's almost disappointing, is that the opening line really early was 5.5 for the Texans, and it came down a little bit, probably because the Texans got blown out. And if you kind of think, we were talking about in the live stream, the Texans get worse in by 2 points in the window of that game. It just shows a reactionary nature of the public, and this is a good example of that. Like I was saying, I still think there's meat on the bone at 3.5 from the Indianapolis Colts, and I'll happily take them in this contest. and I'll probably sprinkle a little in the betting market.
Yeah, 5-star game. Next up, the Miami Dolphins travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Browns 11-point favorites at home. 29% of early bettors are on the Browns. Fat guy, who you got?
I mean, I should, in theory, being a contrarian, take the Browns here, but in good conscience, I can't do that. The Browns, in my opinion, aren't 11 points better than anybody. I know it's using a little bit of a handicapping take on it, but double-digit dogs, I mean, that's just, to me, it's printing money, taking them over the extreme long run, and this is going to be no different. I'll be taking the Miami Dolphins in the 11 points. You know, the Browns are your team. I bet the number, not the teams, guys. 11 points is just too many. I understand why not that many people are on it. I bet you a bit of the Sharps and the public are on the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been almost cover kings as of late. They weren't able to do that against the Buffalo Bills this weekend, but they had, 4 in a row prior to that? Yep. So I can understand why there wouldn't necessarily be wavering support for them because they're a professional football team. Are the Browns way better than them? Absolutely. But 11 points in the long run, should this line really be 11? I could see 8.5 maybe. 8.5 speaks to me, maybe even 9. 11 is too many. This is also a line shop line. Let me add it to you. Give me the Dolphins and give me the 11 points.
5-star game. Next up, the Denver Broncos travel to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills 5-point favorites. 53% of bettors are on the Bills. Fat guy, who you got?
I like the Denver Broncos here. Broncos have nailed it. They're becoming a favorite of mine because they seem to always lose, but they're covering a lot. So they're covering. They're above 500 on covers, and they've lost a lot of close games. Most in the NFL, I believe. Another version of that in the Vikings game. They blew a 20-point lead against the Minnesota Vikings on the road. Very impressive stuff. Why couldn't they put together a similar performance against the Buffalo Bills? It's completely possible. Bills Bills -5. I think that's too many. I'll take the Broncos +5. And possibly it's a low over-under game at 37. Of course, you guys want me to say where I would go on that. I mean, generally I favor unders. But the thing I'm trying to point out is this should be a defensive struggle. And a 5-point favorite in a 37-point over-under is a little bit tough to have both of those things come into play here. So that being said, I do like the Denver Broncos in a defensive performance, perhaps.
5-star game. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals 7-point underdogs at home. 48% of bettors. Fat guy, who you got?
Oh, geez. I'm not a big fan of either of these quarterbacks. Ryan Finley does get a little bit of grace considering he hasn't had as much experience as the hit in the head Mason Rudolph. Hopefully he's not thinking straight this week because I'm going to be taking the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, it feels like I take them every week. I actually think I have now that I think about it. Probably the only team. I mean, they're undervalued by the public because why? They're absolutely terrible. This is a split line, though, and most shops have it at 6 or 6.5. Mostly 6.5 with strong juice, which is pretty much 7. So, I mean, I'm not cherry-picking too hard here. 7 at home in a divisional matchup does make sense for the Cincinnati Bengals. Hey, they were my pick of the week last week, and they were able to cover the 10.5-point spread on the road in Oakland, losing by just a touchdown in a reasonable defensive performance from the Cincinnati Bengals. Are they capable of doing it against perhaps the listless Steelers, who didn't look that strong against the Cleveland Browns? And what I do like about it is the Bengals are going to get credit for their cover against the Oakland Raiders, whereas the ending of the Steelers-Cleveland game with the malice that was drawn from both teams might kind of mask what people thought of the Steelers in regards to their woeful performance against the Browns. So I'm going to say that's almost a positive thing in this game from a public perspective. I know that they're split in percentage-wise, but I still feel that the unpopular pick is going to be the Bengals. And you know me and unpopular stuff. I hang out with Big Rye. Give me the Bengals and give me the points.
5-star game. Next up, the New York Giants take on the Chicago Bears. Bears 6-point favorites at home. 21% of early bettors are on the Bears. Fat guy, who you got?
Can we just get it out once? Just cleanly one time. We have to do all this editing now. Well, not me. I'll be taking the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to be laying the 6 points. Now, it's undecided at quarterback because the 2-minute drill pretty much was run by another than cuter than Chase Daniel. I almost said Chase Daniels. I'm going to try and forego that Eggcorn, at least the natural version of it. And I'm hoping that Chase Daniel is a starter for this game because I'm going to be taking the Bears like I had mentioned. Very few people on the Bears, and I can understand they seem dysfunctional. That BU written on the back of Matt Nagy's playbook card, I mean, getting really lame. Got to be honest. It's like they want the public to know. Oh, he's into motivational quotes and things like that. Getting pretty lame for me. I'm finding the Bears to be very uncool. Not that plays into my sentiments as far as teams go, but they're unpopular in this bet because 6 points seems like a lot. It really feels like a 3.5 point game. I get that the Giants' defense is absolutely atrocious, but this seems like a large spread and almost a weird one at that. I mean, it's actually 7 at some books even, so it's a little bit interesting. I'm going to be taking the Bears, and I quite like them this week. I'm really hoping that Chase Daniel plays and perhaps gives the Bears a little bit more solidarity going forward as far as offense goes. I mean, it's kind of a layup. They're playing a woeful defense that does have an improved front seven, but I like the Bears because simply no one else does, and this is a weird line. It doesn't really make sense. I'm going to take the Bears, and I'm going to lay the 6 points.
If QD's starting, this is a 5-point game. Next up, the Oakland Raiders travel to New York to take on the Jets. Jets, 3-point underdogs at home. 52% of early bettors are on the Jets. Fat guy, who you got?
So was the Bears a 5-point game or a 5-star game? I'm confused now.
It's a 5-star game if that cuteness is starting.
Right. Well, I'm wearing my gambling hat already. I'll be taking the Oakland Raiders. I'll be laying the 3 points. I'm noticing there's a lot of close percentage-wise as far as volume goes. 48% to 52% on the Jets. That's near identical. I imagine the money is the same. This is a close one. It's a chalk game, as they say. The reason I'm going to be taking the Raiders, I'm going to do the do-up, do-down thing because I have to bring it in outside of percentages to pick this one. The Raiders, kind of a tight win, let's call it, over the Bengals, who did have a chance near the end of the game to at least make it interesting, against the Jets, who were able to blow it on the road against the Redskins and defy my pick. So I think the Raiders, this is a reasonable value spot. I mean, not huge or anything. It's chalk, like I said, but I mean, I do think they're better than 3 points in the Jets. There are lines out there for 3.5, and that's where it did open, I believe, at some spots. But I think three has a little meat on the bone for the Raiders. I think they should be 2.5-point favorites. I don't think you can beat the juice betting this game long term unless you get a really good price. But I still think 3, considering it's a contest and you got to pick a side. I think the Raiders -3 is completely reasonable, certainly for those metrics. And not to mention, there's better football team. This is a tight one. It's a chalk game. It's not a bet, but contest pick. It's the Raiders -3.
Next up, Panthers, Saints. Saints, 9.5-point favorites at home. 49% of early bettors are on the Saints. Fat guy, who you got?
Oh, this is an easy one. We're going to be taking the Carolina Panthers, much to the chagrin of who else? Dylan Toddfield. Cue the music. And I'm going to be taking the Carolina Panthers because 9.5 points is a lot in a divisional rivalry game. The line opened really early, I believe, before the week at 7, moved to 9.5. And you can understand why. It's a do-up, do-down situation in reverse, so we're gonna get a good meat on the bone here. The Saints were able to have a really good score line against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Panthers just annihilated by the Atlanta Falcons, who are on a 2-game winning streak, first of the year, I believe. They have to be. So Carolina not looking hot, and the Saints looking about as good as they can. So this is a good situation to get the Carolina Panthers. I do think you can wait till the last minute to get the best possible price. I think this 9.5 will move. So from a contest perspective, I'll definitely be taking the Carolina Panthers. But look on this line to possibly move in the territory of 10. Dare I say 10.5. If it is moving in that direction, you are going to get some pretty good value, I feel, on a divisional rivalry game that's generally closer than I think. I think 7 nailed it on the head. Saints by 7 makes sense to me. Perhaps 6.5. 9.5 seems like too many. 10 or 10.5, sign me up for a bet. I'll be taking the Carolina Panthers in the contest, and I'll be waiting on that line to move in the Panthers' way to 10 or 10.5 to make a wager.
10.5 would be nice. People learned the hard way this week with the Arizona Cardinals San Francisco game.
Yes.
That game ended up pushing at 10 without the extra point, and a lot of people on the Cardinals were pretty upset about that.
Well, because it's the most unbelievable thing. I mean, it was a botched, I guess, special teams play. It's the best way because they're lateraling it to try and get down the field to win the game, as you're supposed to. But I mean, the idea of them recovering it and scoring a touchdown on the 49ers is just unbelievable. They were up 4 points with 30 seconds left, and somehow they lost by 10. It's unbelievable. So this is a good good lesson about line shopping. Even if it only costs you one game a year, it's still, all that stuff adds up. The percentages in sports betting are just on the thinnest of margins. So that's why we always want to get the best price possible. I mean, I could be wrong and it could shift the other way. Some of the pros could be lurking on this line, but 10.5, if it gets there, that's a hard buy for the fat guy.
Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons 4.5-point favorites at home. 70% of early bettors are on the Falcons. Fat guy, who you got?
This is close to bet of the week for me. This is really close. I really like the Tampa Bay Bucs here. 4.5. Woeful performance from Jameis Winston. He is more than capable of them. I actually think, I'm going to go back to what I said last week here. I actually think taking them on the money line is better value than taking them to cover. They're a very play-to-win type team. I mean, when they lose, it's kind of horrible, but they are able to pull off upsets, much like they did against the Los Angeles Rams. They have a very attacking-style defense that can give up huge gashes, but is able to make big plays. And Bruce Arians coaches in an aggressive style. He tries to win every game, going to the overtime against the Seahawks in Seattle. So the idea of him putting up that type of performance against the Falcons is more than just. I also think this spread is too high at 4.5 and should be more like 3 for the Falcons, even 2.5. Falcons have turned in 2 strong road wins, so now they're going to get the benefit of the doubt from the public and are heavily bet, and they're minus 4.5, and that's just too big. I really don't think at this point in time are they that many points better than the Bucs at home. I don't. And they also have almost a non-existent home field advantage. A friend of mine went to the Falcons game against the Seahawks, and she said it was split between Seahawks fans and Falcons fans. But that's just one game and a one sample, but it's a nice little tidbit that I was able to see. Everyone from Georgia are able to tell me in the comments section how it is at a Falcons game. We would much appreciate it. All of that being said, this is a Tampa Bay pick in the contest and a Tampa Bay bet, depending on how good of a price I get, whether it's the money line or it is the against the spread.
5-star game for sure. Next up, Lions, Redskins. Redskins 3.5-point underdogs at home. Only 4% of early bettors are on the Redskins. This will even out a little bit. But fat guy, who you got?
Well, I'm going to go the Redskins pretty clearly here. Nobody likes them. I get it why. They probably look worse than any team in the league. Obviously, Cincinnati is the other guy that's vying for that title of shittiness. So I'm going to be taking the Washington Redskins. I'm going to take the 3.5 points. I think it's safe to wait, though. I mean, obviously 3.5 going down to 3 is like devastating. But 3.5 going up to 4.5 has a marginal benefit. But the chances of it doing so is far better than going the other way. It's way more likely to go to 4.5 than it is to 3. So I think I'm going to gamble a little bit and wait on that line if I were betting on the Redskins. So like I said, it's all about prices here. So even if you follow my picks, if you don't get a good price, it kind of nullifies any of the information that we're giving you. And I'm not saying follow my picks. Do everything at your own risk. Do what gives you the least amount of regret. But whatever you do, always make sure you're shopping for the best prices possible. And this is a tale of lame duck coaching. Bill Callahan has been pretty awful for the Redskins, but what can you say about Matt Patricia? This is a team that really is 8-8 or 9-7 talent-wise, and you haven't seen that type of production on the field. They've kept games close, but they haven't been able to gut it out. And a lot of it, he's supposed to be a defensive coach, and they have defensive talent, especially signing Trey Flowers for such money, and they haven't been able to get very much production out of it. Detroit Lions have been, I'm going to use that, woeful has been the word of the podcast, let's say, if this is a podcast show, whatever you want to call it. You add an egg corn or two if you like. That being said, I don't think Patricia has been a very good coach, so as far as controlling the guys, it's pretty much a wash of shittiness. And I'm going to be taking Washington in that spot. In the contest, 3.5, absolutely. If I bet on it, I'm going to wait for the line a little bit. Hopefully it swings in the favor of the Redskins.
I don't care what anyone says. This is a 5-star game. It's going to be entertaining. Jeff Driscoll looked terrific. If Stafford plays, whoever's quarterbacking Washington is fine too. Next up, Seattle Seahawks travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. Eagles 1.5-point favorites at home. 17% of early bettors are on the Eagles. Fat guy, who you got?
Oh, this is easily. I'm going to be taking the Eagles. How can you take the Eagles, fat guy? Seattle, they're on fire. They went on the road in San Francisco and won. I get it. You hate the Seahawks. No, I don't. I live close to them. I'm happy for them if they are able to defy math. And they do have the best player in the NFL. I've said it how many times in Russell Wilson. I'm going to be taking the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Eagles this week. Simple as that. I think they're a giant killer. They're able to go on the road and beat the Green Bay Packers. Also crushed Buffalo. And of course, I'm using results-based stuff. They weren't able to get it done against the Patriots, but they did put up somewhat of a fight. This team is capable. They really are. I like the coaching staff. I like the Eagles at home because the public doesn't. That's the main reason why. And I can understand. Seahawks are on fire. Eagles weren't able to get it done against the Patriots. So people are anchoring too much of their sentiments on some of the Eagles' results. But there's results that they should be anchoring it on. If they can go on the road and beat Green Bay, why can't they beat Seattle at home? Of course, I'm doing some logic that doesn't exactly line up perfectly, but I'm talking about sentiments and the perception of the Eagles. The Eagles, I actually think, are about even with in terms of strength of the Seahawks, and I think they should be even more of a favorite, perhaps even 3 points. I like the Eagles, and I don't mind laying the points. And this will be a big contest pick because I think a lot of the participants will be taking the Seahawks. So we're gonna match up nicely, and we're gonna see who comes out on top on Sunday midday, I guess. Eagles -1.5. This is an easy one for me.
Yeah, this game's the early 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. This game was actually flexed out of Sunday night into the early time to make room for Green Bay, San Francisco, which is a marquee game. I'm still going to give this game 5 stars, though, from an entertainment perspective. Next up, let's move on to the midday games. Only 2 this week. Let's start with Jacksonville at Tennessee. Tennessee 3-point favorites at home. 70% of early bettors are on the Titans coming off their bye. Fat guy, who you got?
Oh, no one likes Jacksonville? Sign me up for the Jags. I mean, really, this is about as tight a game as you can possibly get. 3 points is probably right where it is, I got to be honest. I mean, you're going to want to get like 3 points and good juice either way, depending on what side you like. I like the Jags simply because no one else does. Are the Jags capable of going to Tennessee and winning? Absolutely. They're going to have to do it a little bit differently, and I actually kind of prefer Gardner Minshew, mostly because you only have to pay him so way less of a salary than Nick Foles, and so it's a good idea to I guess, cultivate that talent going forward. But Foles is still, he's a Super Bowl, I think he was an MVP that game, wasn't he?
Yep.
So, I mean, could he win on the road in Tennessee? It's not that crazy. He doesn't even have to win. Lose by 1 or 2 and I get a cover. Lose by 3, I get a push. I'm okay with that. I'm going to be taking the points. I'm going to be taking the Jacksonville Jaguars because it's the unpopular thing to do. There isn't much more to go on this. Jags and the points.
I know we'll be watching this, but everyone else in the country is going to be watching. The Dallas Cowboys travel to New England to take on the Patriots. Patriots 6.5-point favorites at home. 69% of early bettors are on the Patriots. Fat guy, who you got?
Well, I'm going to be taking 6.5 in the Cowboys. That is firmly a fat guy pick. Firm pick. I like the Cowboys. I like the points. The opening line of 7, I really would have liked that. 7.5, I'm dreaming. But, I mean, as far as contest goes, it'll be the Cowboys and the points. And as far as the bet goes, I'm going to try and wait. Hopefully it gets to 7 or even 7.5. I think it's going to be firm. The more marquee teams that play, they seem to have firmer lines put up. And so I don't think there's going to be too much movement. That being said, I would like the line to move to Cowboys plus 7.5 for me to make a really firm wager, but I'm still going to be wagering at Cowboys plus 6.5. It is 6 at most books, but if you shop, you are able to, if you do have multiple accounts across the board, or if you're lucky enough to have the book that offers that. The New England Patriots were able to cover on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it was a tighter game. Things could have gone different ways. I do think it still was a positive expected value bet taking the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Cowboys were able to win, and we can call it a bit of a thriller almost, against the Lions in a very back-and-forth game. Nice effort from the offense between Gallup, Elliott, and yours truly, Dak Prescott. And Dak to the future, our contest winner for this week. It was a good game for the Cowboys, good game for the Eagles. Good game for the Patriots, rather, over the Eagles. Patriots have a lot more clout than the Cowboys do. Patriots always seem to have the public backing. So simple as that, I get to take America's team. I get to take America's team, but not betting team in the Dallas Cowboys. So give me the Cowboys and give me the points.
Next up, the Green Bay Packers travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Niners 3-point favorites at home, 39% of early bettors. Fat guy, who you got?
I'm going to be taking the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to lay the 3 points. I don't really feel comfortable. I actually, from a strength perspective, I think the 49ers aren't as good as the Packers are. I didn't think they were as good as the Seahawks either. But, I mean, betting percentages favor the 49ers, so that means I'm going to be taking them. And the bookmakers don't put out lines. Odds makers don't put out lines just to get killed. They're not stupid. They aren't. I got to be honest. Doing this enough times, and I think 49ers is the right long-term play expected value-wise. I do think this is a tight one. I don't love it. But I'm going to be taking the 49ers. I'm going to lay the 3 points. I mean, they didn't look good against the Arizona Cardinals. They didn't look great against the Seattle Seahawks. Could we get a bounce back, perhaps? I think we can. So give me the 49ers. I'm going to lay the 3 points.
And finally, on Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens travel to LA to take on the Rams. Rams 3.5-point underdogs at home. Only 15% of early bettors are on the Rams. Fat Guy, who you got?
Bet of the week. Here it is. The Los Angeles Rams plus 3.5. I know it's risky. Dylan Toddfield, cue the music. I know that the Ravens are probably the best team in the league. They could be the best team in the league. They might be the best team in the league. I know who the Rams are. I like the Rams in this spot. I like getting 3.5 at home. Even though home field doesn't seem to mean nearly as much for the Rams as it does for other teams, as Mickey Hill would like to point out, I still like them in this game. It did open as a pick'em and has been bet up, but I think the price is right. I really do. I think the price is right at 3.5 points for the Los Angeles Rams. So that is going to be my bet of the week. They didn't look that great against the Chicago Bears. They're going to have just a tough time against the Baltimore Ravens. But I still like their roster. I think they're going to be able to improve going forward. Maybe this is me being a little bit of a homer on the Rams. It is. Not that they're like one of my teams or anything, but I'm impressed by this coaching staff, and I think that there's wisdom there. And, I mean, maybe I'm romancing the Stone a little bit. Terrible movie, by the way. Don't watch it. I'll be taking the Rams plus 3.5, and this will be my bet of the week.
All right, Fat Guy, time for the lightning round. Let's start with Thursday Night Football, Indianapolis at Houston.
Frank Reich and the Colts.
The early games, Miami at Cleveland.
Brian Flores and the Dolphins.
Denver at Buffalo.
Vic Fangio and the Broncos.
Pittsburgh at Cincy.
Zach Taylor, the rookie head coach, and the Bengals.
Giants at Chicago.
Cool guy Matt Nagy laying the points with Chicago.
Oakland at the Jets.
Gruden's Grinders, the Oakland Raiders, laying the points.
Carolina at Nolans.
Riverboat Ron and the Carolina Panthers.
Tampa Bay at Atlanta.
Bruce Arians and the Bucks.
Detroit at Washington.
Bill, don't call me Randy Callahan and the Redskins.
Seattle at Philly.
Doug Peterson and the Eagles.
Jacksonville at Tennessee.
I don't even remember Jacksonville's coach's name. Doug Marrone and the Jaguars.
Dallas at New England.
The Clapper, who may or may not have the clap, Jason Garrett and the Cowboys.
What game's next? Green Bay, San Fran.
Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers.
Baltimore at the Rams.
Sean McVay and the Rams, pick of the week.
All right, Dylan Toddfield's daddies. That's it for Week 12. These are the games. These are the spreads. These are the bets. Compete in the contest. Fat Guy, take us home.
You know, I want to say you've been a real helpful on this show. You've just been so good.
I forgot to record.
You forgot to record? Yeah, that's probably right.